Kim Wan. Amitabha，好，我们马上开始我们今天晚上的讲法。
Test 1 2。
我们开始来请法，是由我们的这个精力，它力量的力，精力来跟我们来请法。
一切众生请转妙法轮，教导我们如何疗伤脱死，离苦得乐，速证无上。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the present noble and perfect enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto sucetoye arahati sammya sambuddhassa.
Namo sadanto sucetoye arahati sammya sambuddhassa.
好，开经记，大家一起来念了。无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wonderful Dharma, supple and profound, rare is incarnate even in a billion years, but now we see it, hear it, and accept it very reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 诸佛菩萨、仙公上人以及我们在座的佛友，还有我们线上的佛友，大家晚安。
Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master Hua, those at the assembly here in the hall, and all the Buddha friends online.
我们今天一样的在8月4号礼拜四我们大家一起来研究佛说无量寿经。
Today, August 4th, Thursday, we're again taking up the Sutra of boundless life and study it.
好，我们之前我们一样的，我们来先念南无阿弥陀佛圣号，来在我们的心中。
We shall begin by reciting the Buddha's name, Amitabha Buddha.
好，我们大家一起来念啦。好。
南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛。南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀 弥陀佛。南无阿弥陀佛。南无阿弥陀佛。南无阿弥陀佛。南无阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。阿弥陀佛。
好，我们今天的经文在110页，110页中文，那经文在111。好，我们先念中文，再来念英文。
So we're going to go again, starting page 110 for the Chinese version, 111 for the English.
好，我们大家请合掌，我们一起来念中文。好
Together.
，Yeah。
即使四方自然风起，普吹宝树，出五音声，以无量妙花，随风周遍，自然供养，如是不觉，一切诸天皆即天上百千花香，万种伎乐，供养提佛，即诸菩萨，声闻大众，
普散香，
花香，奏诸音乐，前后往来往，更相开闭。当思之时，悉然快乐，不可胜圆。
好，就到这里。然后英文的。
At that moment, the wind freely blows from the four directions through the jeweled trees. All the trees produce the five tones and rain down immeasurable, exquisite flowers that are carried everywhere by the wind. These spontaneous offerings are produced continuously. All the devas offer hundreds of thousands of celestial flowers and incense, along with myriad varieties of music, to the Buddha and the great assembly of Bodhisattvas and voice hearers. Scattering the flowers and incense in all directions, the devas play many varieties of music as they follow one another in sequence, each giving way to the next. At that time, the spontaneous joy they experience is beyond words.
好，这个我们稍微来诠释一下，就是稍微解释一下这个整个经文的意义。这个呢，他说即使是方啊，自然风起，就是说即使就是当时啦，即刻的，就是那时候了。四个方向的清风呢，自然就吹起来了，然后吹，而且呢，吹着七宝树，然后而且发出五种声音啊，这个五种声音呢，就是宫、商、九子仪，假如说念白话一点，宫商角子仪啊，因为那时候有无量的这个美丽的花朵妙花呢，它随着这个风吹散四方，它这个是来自然的供养，而且呢，呈现不断的，不绝就是不断的。
A brief explanation of page 111. At that moment, from the four directions, wind, natural wind, arises. And at that moment, this wind blows naturally from the four directions. And then this wind, as it sweeps across the seven jewel trees, 5 different tones of music is created. And this 5 tonal scale, 宫商角姬汝虞, are the basic tonal structure for heavenly music.
所以呢，那时候的一切的天神呢，诸位天上的人呢，都拿着这个，都祭就是拿着这个总100千种的这个花，还有香，还有音乐，10000种的音乐来供养这个佛陀。还有菩萨，还有声闻大众。
As the music play, innumerable wondrous and beautiful flowers scatter by the wind to the 4 directions, forming a very natural and spontaneous offering, and this offering repeats itself incessantly, while at the same time the multitude of heavenly dwellers, bringing with them from the heavens flowers of hundreds of thousands of different variety, plus incense, and on top of that 10,000 kinds of music, all to make offerings to the Buddha, the assembly of Bodhisattvas, and Arhats.
所以呢，他们散着这个香花，然后呢，他们还演奏在天上演奏各种的音乐，前后这样子。来往，互相来更替，互相的 这样子来做这一些他们的演奏音乐。
As they scatter the fragrant flowers and the incense, and also performing the different kinds of music, they form a very orderly procession. Those in the front, those at the back, as they come and go, they were able to give way to each other very politely to create this orderly offering.
所以呢，他那时候的心里呢的快乐呢，真的是没有办法用语言说出来的。
That joy in their hearts is simply indescribable.
在经上讲这个七宝树啊，七宝树呢，它在观经释帖书中里面呢，它讲这个不是列七种的宝树，而是呢一个树上呢就有七种的这个七宝，这一棵树上就有。像什么我们知道七宝就是黄金啊、紫金啊、白银啊、玛瑙啊、珊瑚啊、白玉啊、珍珠啊，这七宝。
An explanation of the term the seven jeweled trees, as explained in the fourfold explanation of the Contemplative Sutra. This does not mean that there are 7 rows of trees. It means that every tree has 7 kinds of jewels, such as gold, purplish gold, silver, lapis lazuli, mother of pearl, white jade, pearl. These 7 kinds of jewels adorn every tree.
所以呢，它这个风啊，吹这个七宝树啊，然后呢，它发出5种声音啊。刚才我们有讲过了，宫、商、角、诸、余，其实呢，这个我们用现代的这个音乐呢，就是哆来咪嗦拉啦，就是我们现在的这个音乐的声音。但是在古代呢，它是不太一样，它是有代表这个意义的。
So as the wind sweeps through the trees of 7 jewels, a musical harmony was created that's based on the 5 tones. And these 5 tones actually were ancient Chinese musical scale. Of course, that's just a representation of the actual music being played.
它在这个礼记上面呢，礼记啊，就是说我们古代的一个算古书啊，书里面上记载的，它这个宫啊，宫就是代表这个天子，天子就是皇帝啊，这些的，宫是代表天子，那这个他这个天子就是统帅所有的这个人民啊，还有众音这一些所有的音乐方面。第二个就是宫商啊，商是代表臣子，就是大臣啊，天子下来就是大臣啊，帮忙国家的这个臣子啊，这样子的一个商。 那角就是代表百姓啊，所有的国内的一些百姓。
Indeed, in terms of explaining these 5 basic tongues in the book of etiquette from antiquity, Chinese antiquity, the first tongue, gong, represents that of the son of heaven or the emperor, being that it is the leader of all tongues. The second tongue, sang, represents the ministers of the court. Third one, jiao, represents the people, the populace.
好，再下来就是执，讲执真啊，执代表政事，就是国家的一些大事，也做什么事情发生，政事。然后于呢，就是代表万物，所有的国家的一些事情的万事万物这样子，所以这个是5种的代表。
The fourth tongue, ji, represents the politics and administrative aspects of a dynasty, whereas the last tongue, yu, represents the 10,000 phenomena that's taking place within the kingdom.
下面我们要来了解这个因为今天他们经上啊，他说这个天上的天女天人呢，来供养这个诸佛菩萨声闻大众，他们都非常的欢喜，这样子来做这个佛事啊，在这个我们佛教百科全书里面呢，我也把他们的这个这些天女的事情，我们来介绍。
A note about heavenly dwellers that came to make offerings to the Buddha, the Sanghyas, and the assembly. In the Chinese Buddhist encyclopedia, there's quite a bit of explanation of about these heavenly dwellers, and we'll spend a little bit of time discussing it.
他这个在我们人间还有上去就是天界啊，这个之间里面呢，的天界跟人间的这个有天人，天人有天人在啊，然后呢这个在也就是说在我们人跟天上有分3界嘛，欲界、色界、无色界。那这个上欲界我们也是算欲界之一，欲界、色界，这一些的有情的所谓有情呢，就是一些人啊，有情之人啊，不是无情的石头，这些不是有情的，这些天众，这些神啊，天人啊，我们就是我们来讲这些天人。
In terms of the world system, of course, we understand there are 3 realms that separate humans and heavenly dwellers. the lowest realm, of course, is the heaven of desires, in which both humans and heavenly dwellers reside. And above it, of course, is the heavens of forms, and beyond that, heavens of no forms. And within these three realms, of course, the lowest one being the one that where human beings cohabit with the lowest rank of heavenly dwellers. And all of us are known as beings with sense. We're sentient beings.
所以呢，这些天人呢，依照经典记载呢，天人呢非常喜欢来做佛事，做就是所谓佛事呢，就是像常做天乐啦，在那里我们也有经典上讲的来做天上的音乐，天乐它是不像我们世间上的这个音乐，它做音乐是非常好听的。还有散天花，它都散花，天花会散下来这样子。然后呢，它还另外一个，它可以飞行在虚空中飞行，飞来飞去，做天乐啦，飞来飞去散花啦这些，所以呢，它有一个飞天的这个名称。
Heavenly dwellers, no matter where they reside, have the characteristic of being happy to participate in Buddhist assembly, where the Buddha conducts lectures. And whenever they come, they will bring with them heavenly music, and they'll, in praise of the Buddha, they'll scatter heavenly flowers. And because they come from empty space, flying through empty space, they are also called heavenly flyers.
而且在《法华经》里面呢，法华是一部经啦。然后呢，第卷5里面有如来寿量品，然后他就讲到呢，我此土安稳，最安稳。我这个国度里面呢是最安稳的，天人常充满，所以呢，他那边那个国度里面呢，天人常常都是充满着的。
So, for instance, in the flower Dharma Sutra, chapter 5, the chapter on the Tathagata's longevity, there is a mentioning of the state of these heavenly dwellers. The Buddha said, my land is actually the most secure and comfort, which is why it's filled with heavenly dwellers, and that's why they always come to my land.
所以呢，他在那里的天人呢，他都诸天集天鼓，所以呢，他那边的天人呢，就是来集天鼓，来做居要，常常来做就是音乐啊，来供养佛陀的这些，而且呢，他还以曼陀花，就是说来用这个曼陀花来下这个曼陀花，然后呢来散这些曼陀花呢 来散在诸佛还有大众上面。
You know, whenever they come, these heavenly dwellers would be hitting the drums, the heavenly drums, and bring with them music of heavenly dances. And they also rain upon our assembly mandala flowers to offer to the Buddha and the Great Assembly.
所以呢，依照这个经典里面又记载呢，他这个天人啊，他喜欢来赞叹佛事，天人喜欢来称赞，佛的事情啦。然后呢，他常常做天叶、散天花，还有熏天香，拿着香来供养佛熏香，然后来飞行在虚空里面去飞行。
So other sutras also have the same kind of description that about heavenly dwellers enjoy to enjoy the fact that they want to praise the Buddha whenever there's teachings going on, and every time they do mix, whenever they visit, they'll bring with them heavenly music, heavenly flowers, and then and heavenly incense.
所以呢，他这个天人，而且他都挂着这个璎珞，璎珞啊，就是璎珞大部分都挂在这个巷子里面啦，这个头部下来的这个像，璎珞挂着璎珞，然后呢，他在天空中飞行，所以刚才我们讲了，他有这个飞天，飞天的这个名称。
And as they fly through empty space, their bodies are covered with jewels and precious chains. As they fly through the sky, people call them the sky flyers.
所以在印度里面呢，他佛教呢都是用这样子来表现这个我们的这个庄严，是非常庄严的。这个像这些飞天呢，在异界是常常他描述的很多，但是在色界以上呢，无色界就很少了，那边就比较少记载。
Since times in India, Buddhism described this kind of reference by the heavenly dwellers to accentuate the adornment of assemblies. And in multitude of sutras, their visit and their offerings are described in details. However, most of the visits are from dwellers of the desire heaven, the 6 layers of heaven in the desire realm. Beyond that, there's not much records of visits by dwellers from the form heavens.
像这个异界的这个天人呢，他有7种颜色，身上呢，他都可以带7种颜色，而且非常光明。那这种呢，这个火，像火一样的火，就是火的颜色。 然后金子的颜色，然后青呢青色的，赤跟火是不一样的，赤就是赤红的，然后白色，还有黄色，又还有另外一个颜色是黑色，7种颜色。
The sutras describe dwellers from the desire heavens are characterized by 7 kinds of colors. Color of fire, of gold, blue, red, white, yellow, and also black.
而且呢，他们都是非常清净的，微妙。然后呢，它这个没有皮啊、肉啊、筋啊，这些浮出来没有，都也没有那些骨髓啊，骨还有血呀，这些都没有，他们没有这些的。而且呢，它是随时都可以变化，可以变化长啊、短啊、粗啊、大小这些形象，它自己都可以变化的。
The sutras describe these dwellers as beings with great purity, subtle, very wondrous in appearance. In fact, the normal features of a human being, such as skin, flesh, ligament, veins, things of that nature, blood, marrow, bones, all these kind of humanly characteristics are not obvious, cannot be seen. Dwellings can also change the shape from short to long, from big to small, from coarse to minute. They can attain all these shapes at will.
而且呢，他的头发都是非常柔软，牙齿非常都非常白色的，而且很密的，他走的步伐呢都非常的轻飘，走路，然后不会有任何的这个障碍，而且软极自如，就是非常的自由自在的这样子。还有2个眼睛非常清澈，还有一个呢，他的眼睛啊，他都不会眨眼，他眼睛都是张开，而且不眨眼的，这个不逊，这个我们以前有一个故事啊，就是说，这个他天人的天女啊，她不会眨眼睛的。
Their hair, soft and supple, moist. Their teeth, white, pure, square and together. And when they come and go, they can come and go with absolute no impediment. And whether they come and go quickly or slowly, they have a sense of ease about them. Both of their eyes are clear, and also even if they were to look at something for a long time, they don't have to blink. And there are actually story about in other places about heavenly maidens actually have that kind of characteristic, being able to look at something for a long time and not blinking.
好，另外呢，欲界的这些天人呢，他是有淫欲的，他还是有欲念的，他这个经上也有提到这个 淫欲的这个事情呢，像夜摩天的天人呢，他两个人互相执手，就是两个互相来握手，就发生了这个淫事了。
Now those dwellers in the desire heaven, of course, still have the great desire, and but their accomplishment of this great desire is different from one layer of heaven to the others. For instance, in the Yama heaven, in all the Yama heavens, all they have to do, each person, or two people just have to hold hands, and that accomplishes that desire.
还有呢，斗率天呢，就是彼此来意念，就是假如说他看到喜欢的，他就来用意念的方式，那就成交了，就可以成或这个淫事。
Whereas in the Tushita heaven, all they have to do is just to think of each other, and that accomplishes the desired goal.
然后呢，这个化肉诸天呢，就是化肉天啊，他们就要互相来熟视，就是互相用眼睛来看，这样子他们就成了。
While in the multitude of heavens, in the transformative happiness realm, all they have to do is just look at each other intently to accomplish that act.
还有他化住在天呢，就是两个必须要互相来讲话，有共同的语言，这样子就成了。
Whereas in the heaven for transforming the others to attain ease, their way is to talk to each other.
所以呢，这个还有摩身的上面啊，还有这个摩天的诸天呢，他们也是要互相来看事，就是互相来看一下，这样子就成了。所以呢，这个诸天的这个他们还有另外一个，就是他们的寿命他们会有尽的时候，他们会成五衰的现象，就是我们称为天人五衰。
Lastly, in the multitude of heavens for the demonic bodies, these beings, they accomplish the act by just glancing at each other. No matter where they are, the problem with the multitude of heavenly dwellers is that their life ends. There's an end to their life spans. And when that happens, the 5 decay appearances is what they would encounter. We call it the 5 decaying appearances.
所以呢，这个五衰出现的时候，就是他的生命要解释，他会堕落。然后五衰呢，就是我们或者是等下一次我们再讲，因为时间的关系，这个还有一个五衰现象呢，它可以见到地藏菩萨。我们地藏经里面呢就有提到这个，你只要见到地藏菩萨的名号，听到这个名号，或者是跟他顶礼，那你这个天人就不会五衰呢，他会转增天福，他不会堕到善恶道去，这样子。
So, ， when the lifespan approaches the end, the 5 decaying marks appear. Doesn't mean that it is the end. It doesn't mean that they're going to meet terrible fate. If they're lucky enough, or if they have planted condition such that they encounter the Bodhisattva earth store, and if they bring forth the thought to bow to the Bodhisattva, either seeing him or even hearing about his name, to bow to him, then the heavenly blessing will be extended, and for sure they will not descend into the 3 evil paths.
那在佛陀时代呢，因为有算弟子们有病啊，然后佛陀呢就派这个目犍连去天上啊，去忉利天，去那里来问谁呢？就是奇婆，奇婆他是一个释迦牟尼佛在世的时候很有名的一个神医，去问他。所以我想今天晚上把这个故事来跟大家分享。
There's actually a story during the Buddha's time of him sending one of the disciples to one of the heavens. And this is the story of Jivaka. Jivaka was a disciple of Maugliyayana, the great disciple of the Buddha, the one with great spiritual penetration. The Buddha one time sent him to go see Jivaka. Jivaka was a great doctor, and after he passed away, he went up and dwelt in one of the heavens.
因为他这个奇婆死后呢，他就转身到忉利天，忉利天上去了。知道我们忉利天一天，它是我们人间的100年啦，也这样子的。所以那目犍连呢，他因为那时候有弟子算生病啊，有病呢，然后目犍连就升到忉利天，去向奇婆来问诊。
The reason Maugliyayana was sent to this heaven, actually this heaven is the Trimsa heaven, is because another disciple was seriously ill, and the Buddha needed a good doctor, knowing that Jivaka, still up in the heavens, still a good doctor, thinking that maybe he can help. So that's why he sent Maugliyayana, who of course was Jivaka's teacher, to fetch him.
然后呢，他目犍连就上去天上忉利天呢，然后呢，那时候刚好就那个忉利天呢，他们在这个做欢喜园的这个娱乐，欢喜园就是说大家骑着这个驾着这个车在跑，在欢喜，在快乐这样子。
So when Maugliyayana arrived at the heaven, it just so happened he ran right into an event. This is an event where all the heavenly dwellers were attending a great event in the Garden of Happiness, and everyone was in a hurry.
所以呢，那目犍连呢，他就站在路旁啊，来等待，他奇婆的出现，而且呢，他站在路旁啊，没有一个天人在看他，没有，根本就没有。那最后呢，奇婆到了，他就看到奇婆了。
So as Maugliyayana is standing at the side of the road waiting, and witnessing all the heavenly dwellers driving by, none of them greeted him because they were in such hurry. Finally, Jivaka's vehicle came by.
就看到他来了，他就坐在一个非常华丽的这个花车上面呢，然后呢，他坐在上面呢，就只有跟他举手，举他的手起来，跟他挥手，这样子表示来治愈他。
And that vehicle of Jivaka was decked out in all sorts of flowers. When he saw Maugliyayana, his teacher, he was so in such a hurry, he was so distracted. All he could do was to raise one of his arms to wave at his teacher.
所以呢，他就这样子就过去了，就跟他挥手，然后就挥过去。那目犍连呢，他这时候他心里真的不舒服，因为他以前这个奇婆是他的弟子，他看到这样子，而且呢，他目犍连是从人间上去到地天的，他这样子的这个动作呢，他非常不高兴。
He passed right by Maugliyayana, didn't even wait for 1 second. Now, Maugliyayana, a great Arat, was taken aback, thinking that how come my own disciple is treating me like this? I came all the way up here to the heaven. He didn't even invite me. Instead, he just kind of waved at me and blew me off.
所以呢，他那时候他就就是用招手就走了，所以他就用神通的力量呢，目犍连用神通的力量呢，就把奇婆的这个花车把它停住了，不给他再走，那花车不走啦，奇婆就只好呢，他就下车来顶礼这个目犍连。
So Maugliyayana, using his great spiritual power, stopped the flowery vehicle. Well, at that moment, Jivaka couldn't do anything, so he had to descend his cart and went up to Maugliyayana and bowed to him.
所以呢，目犍连当然就跟他当场呢就来训化他，然后奇婆呢，他回答说实在没有办法，这里实在是现在忙得很，每天都玩都玩不过来了，你看其他的天人呢，他连打招呼，连看你都不看了，也不打招呼，而且呢，正因为我是你的弟子，所以我才跟你用最大的力气来跟你举一个手来问讯。
And Maugliyayana, of course, gave him a lecture about his lack of respect for his own teacher. Well, at that moment, Jivaka spoke the truth. He said, please understand, it's absolutely out of my control. Here in the heaven, we are just busy day and night. Busy for what? Busy having fun. It's just endless events of great fun. Look at it. Look at how busy all these other heavenly dwellers are. They don't even have time to say hi. Only because I was your disciple in the human realm, that urged me to use my utmost power to stop and wave at you, and I was only able to do so with one hand. That's all I could do.
所以在天上的享乐呢，真是不得了。我们后来木建连就跟他说啊，因为我们有弟子，他身上有病啊，那问他怎么样子来治病啦，然后呢，奇婆就说少吃一点就好了，叫他就是食物啊少吃，那这样子，因为你少吃是可以治病的，就不会发生那一些胀肚子啊各方面的疾病，所以少吃是一个方法，治病的方法。
So we can see that an abundance, an excessive amount of blessing is a big problem, and it causes people to not able to cultivate. So Maugliyayana then explained to Jivaka why he's visiting, the fact that someone is really sick, and all Jivaka can say is, that is actually pretty easy. Just tell the guy not to indulge in so much eating. Eat less. And his illness would be reduced and eliminated ultimately. Very simple.
Yeah. 好，我们知道我们刚才也有提到这个天上的忉利天呢，就有在释迦牟尼佛的时候呢，也就有一个忉利天的这个女信徒呢，她下来我们这个世间上呢，然后呢，她后来又回去了天上，所以我们也来分享这个法纪经的一个往生忉利天的女信徒的故事。
Here's another story about heavenly dwellers traversing the different realms from heaven to human realm and back. This came from the Sutra of Dharma sentences. It's about this woman who was in the heavens, Trayatrimsa heaven, descended into the human realm, and then went back to Trayatrimsa. And let's see what it's all about.
他说呢，在守卫城呢，有一个女信徒啊，她这个女信徒就是佛陀的信徒嘛，她的名字叫做巴雕布基寇姑玛丽，巴雕布基寇姑玛丽，她16岁的时候呢，她就结婚了，而且她有4个孩子，4个儿子。
This is a story about this woman called Patipujika. Patipujika married when she was 16. She was she lived in the city of Savrasti, and also a disciple of the Buddha. She had 4 sons, and she was a very virtuous woman.
她因为她很做佛事啊，女信徒啊，她很有德行啊，所以呢，她也很喜欢来食物供养修行人，所以呢，她也常常去那个 僧伽精舍里面呢，去打扫房子啊这些的，然后呢灌水啊，把水灌好，这些杂事他都在做。
Patipujika enjoy serving and making offerings. He often brought with her food, other necessities for the cultivators. Oftentimes he would go to their dwelling and to do some cleaning. When containers of water were empty, she would fill them, and things of that nature, just basically serving the Sangha.
所以呢，而且他非常清楚他自己他的前世呢，他是忉利天王的妻子，他是一个忉利天王的妻子之一啦，因为忉利天王有很多的妻子，他是其中之一，而且呢，他也很清楚的，他那时候呢，他是跟着这个忉利天王呢，在花园早上起来的时候呢，在花园里面游戏完以后呢，他就下生到人间来的。
Patipujika also was able to see her previous life, that her previous life was one of the wives of the king of Triatrim's heaven. She also remembered how she ending up descending into the human realm. That happened when she was having fun with a bunch of her friends and relatives in the heavenly garden. At that moment, somehow or another, she was reborn in the human realm.
所以呢，他们每次供养比丘做功德的时候呢，他都非常的渴望呢，他能够在往生到忉利天，再去做忉利天王的这个妻子，跟往常一样的，他都非常渴望能够再回去。
So she was obsessed with that idea of going back to the Triatrimsa heaven. So every time she made offerings to the bhikshus or to any kind of merit act, she was fixated about wanting to return these merits so that she can be reborn in the Triatrimsa heaven, so that she can again be one of the wives of the heavenly king, just like before.
就有一天呢，就发生他生病啦，生病以后呢，就死了，就是死了以后呢，他就正如他很期望的回到忉利天上去，成为忉利天王的妻子。因为你做善事呢，你就是说你往生的时候都会到善事去，你想升天就去升天。像我们在念佛，我们以后往生的时候，我们想去阿弥陀佛那里极乐世界，那你就可以去，这样子，因为你是做善事、正事，做正的事情、对的事情，尤其是做佛事。
Sure enough, one day she got sick, passed away, and just like she had so fervently wished, she was reborn in the Triatrimsa heaven, and also became a wife of the king of the Triatrimsa heaven. And of course, the causal relationship there is when a person does good deeds, being reborn in the heavens is one of the results. Now, in our case, we recite the Buddha's name, we're mindful of the Buddha, seeking to be reborn in a different realm. We want to be reborn in the Amitabha's country, and that is different, that it's a different kinds of goal for all of us.
所以呢，他真的呢，他就往生以后呢，他又到忉利天上去往生去了。我们知道忉利天的一天一天是我们人间的100年一天他的一天我们100年，所以呢，他回到这个忉利天的时候呢，忉利天呢的人呢，都还在花园里面玩，包括国王他们都是都还在玩，而且呢，都也因为他下来人间呢，也都几乎忘了他的存在。
Now, of course, the time scale between the heaven and human realm is vastly different. One day in the Trimsha heaven is equal to 100 years in the human realm. So when Patipuchika went back up to the heaven after a whole lifetime in the human realm, she saw that the heavenly king and all the rest of the assembly of the entourage was still in the garden playing like when she left them. But yet they've pretty much forgotten about her.
所以呢，当他再加入因为他回到忉利天然后又再加入他们这个忉利天王就问他说：“哎，你早上去哪里了？”他就告诉他了，他已经去人间呢走一回了。
So when the king saw that she's back with them, he asked, "Hey, where did you go this whole morning? Where did you end up? How come we didn't see you?" She told him, "Well, what happened is I've already been through an entire lifetime in the human realm, and then I just returned."
所以呢，这个忉利天一天呢，我们人间的100年呢，所以这个是他从他生育家庭，然后又回去，我想也是只不过是50-60年，所以对100年也是他们还在玩还在花园里面玩，所以这个是正算应该是这样子的。所以呢，这时候呢，比丘他们有这个事情发生，他们就去报告这个巴雕布基克姑玛丽呢，她往生的这个事情，那佛陀就跟比丘们说没有错，生命呢是非常短暂的人，是很短的，所以呢，他还没有满足这个感官欲望的时候呢，人就已经夺走了他的生命。这个意思就是说，真的生命是很短，我们要把握我们的生命，这样子，在这个我们这一趟的人间的这个生命期间。
And the bhikshus reported back to the Buddha that Patipuchika is gone, has died. And the Buddha said, "Yes, I understand it. I absolutely see her." And the lesson here is the briefness, the brevity of a human life. Human life indeed is just a blink of an eye. Way before we're able to fulfill the desire of all of our sensual organs, death is already right there in front of our eyes. So we must protect and treasure our lifespans at all cost.
另外也是在法纪经里面呢，有一篇啊，这个天女来照顾大迦叶的这个事情，我们也来讲这个故事。
Here's another story about a heavenly female who came and took care of Mahakasyapa.
他这个有一次就是大迦叶呢，他就是在这个打禅定7天的时候呢，他出定以后呢，他希望有机会提供机会给一个人，希望能够在这个时候，他就是算这个有人来供养，就给他这个供养的机会。那时候就刚好有一个年轻的女孩子来做食物供养。
One day, the Venerable Mahakasyapa was meditating in a cave called Vaibhara. He entered samadhi for 7 days. When he emerged from samadhi, knowing that it is an excellent opportunity for someone to make offering, making such offering to someone who just emerged from samadhi is a rare opportunity. So at that time, he saw that there's a young lady cooking food.
所以呢，他就在门口来跟他化缘，然后呢，这个女孩子看到大迦叶非常高兴，也非常尊敬，就是希望他就跟大迦叶说：“尊者啊，我希望用这个很威逼的食物来供养你，然后希望我能够明白这个真理，这样子。”那大迦叶也接受他的供养，然后就跟他做随喜。他说：“哦，你会得到你希望、你愿望的，都可以实现的。”
The young lady saw that Mahakasyapa standing there, very happy. She respectfully said, "Venerable, I wish my humble offering to you can make me understand the ultimate truth." Mahakasyapa, the Venerable, received her offering and congratulated her, saying, "I also wish that what you hope for will be realized."
所以后来呢，这个女孩子呢就被一个毒蛇咬到，然后就往生了。她往生呢，也往生到忉利天上去，在那里当忉利天的天神。因为在忉利天的天神是算蛮荣耀的，所以他也知道他往生忉利天为天神呢的关系，是因为大迦叶的关系，因为他供养大迦叶的关系，所以这样有这个机会，他往生到忉利天当天神，他非常的感激，所以呢，他决定呢，他继续能够来做善事，这样子。
Well, this young lady one day, unfortunately, was bitten by a poisonous snake and she passed away. But she was able to be reborn in the Trayatrimsha heaven as a heavenly dweller. And of course she was endowed with all the glories of such existence. But she knew full well the fact that she was able to be reborn in the heaven and be a dweller is because she performed the wholesome act of offering to an arat.
所以呢，他想这个福报能够继续下去呢，他就每天早上呢就来精舍里面打扫环境啊，灌水啊，然后这个当开始工作的时候，大家是以为是别的这个沙弥年轻沙弥来做的，后来他知道是一个女天神，年轻的女天神来做这个工作，就劝他不要来精舍这里啦，因为避免别人说闲话啦，因为他是算女的天神，女孩子生啊，会给人家说闲话，所以呢，他这个女天神听了也是非常的丧气啊，他就跟他说：“哎呀，你不要再毁了我的这个福报啊，这样子。”
She was extremely grateful for that encounter and the resulting blessing that she was able to attain. And she vowed that she'll continue to do this kind of wholesome act so that her blessing can be continued. So for that, every morning she went down to the Aranya, the place where the monks were, and she cleaned up the surrounding, fill water jugs with water, and other kind of things to help out. At the beginning, the Venerable Mahakasyapa thought that maybe all this work was done by a young Shramanara. Then he found out that really it's all done by this young heavenly female dweller. And so he was taken aback and he admonished and discussed this with her and said, look, I don't think it's a good idea for you to continue to come here because people are going to talk. This kind of work should not be done by a woman. When she heard that, she was very upset and cried, begging the Venerable, please do not destroy my blessing.
这时候呢，佛陀听到他的这个哭声呢，然后就放光啊来安慰他，因为他来做佛事嘛，就跟他安慰说，虽然呢，就善事非常重要啊，你做这些善事非常重要，但是呢，你身为一个年轻的女孩子呢，单身来精舍这边服务呢，是不值得鼓励的，就是说，她是只有一个单身女孩子在这边，做事情呢，是不这样子不太好的，不值得鼓励，意思说叫她不要这样子做啦。
At that moment, the Buddha heard her crying. The Buddha emitted light and comforted her, saying that, look, it's a good thing to perform wholesome acts that are good, but being a young woman yourself, it is improper for you to come to the aranya by yourself to perform these service. It is not something that we can encourage. It's not proper.
从这个故事里面呢，我想要提一下，在我们这边 BBM 这边也有女众来做供养，像花啊、百花，还有这个水果啊，还有送食物啊。我想这个他们我们的这些女众都做得很好，他不会只有一个人进来，都是2个人以上，至少有2个人，2个女孩子在一起这样子就算做得蛮正确正当的，所以我这边特别把这个事情提出来跟大家来我们有这样子的事情。
Now, of course, here at BBM, we also have a lot of ladies come here to serve and support the monastery, but when they come, they are always not coming by themselves, by oneself. They always come 2 or 3 together to support the monastery and to take on various duties. So that's how we do things around here.
好，我们算讲这个经典的事情到这里。我想我们后面呢还来讲这个八音啊，我们有讲过了八音，蛮多种的。那今天晚上呢，我们就来讲这个住的这个八音，它这个属于木头方面的。
Now let's take a pause from lecturing on the sutra. Let's turn our attention to music. In fact, the 8 kinds of sound from traditional Chinese music realm.
它这个柱呢，是古代的这个打击乐器，它是用木棒来击奏来打击，它是用于宫殿音非常雅乐的时候来用，那在汉代，那这个是在汉代的时候的乐器，非常流行在全国的这个大城市。
Of the 8 songs, one of them, of course, is a song from wood, which is called Zhu, the sound of Zhu in ancient Chinese musical tradition. It is a percussion instrument. One makes sounds by beating on wood, be it wood kind of stuff, be it bamboo or wood. It typically is square in shape. One hits it with a stick. It's used during performance of elegant music in the courts.
所以呢，它这个清代传到清代，我们这个总共有4000多年的这个柱的音乐呢，传到清代的时候呢，就变成大概有50到边啊，它这个高有50公分，50公分。然后边呢65公分，它是八音里面呢是木头的一种，所 所以呢，等一下我们会给大家来看这个video。Yeah.
This musical instrument was invented during the Han Dynasty, and it became popular in all cities. Reputed to be invented by a person during the Xia Dynasty, which makes it a instrument of 4,000 years. During the Qing Dynasty, we understand that this musical instrument has evolved into a piece that's 50 millimeter high and 65 millimeter square. It is indeed a wood instrument.
它这个用最多的就是来祭孔，来祭祀孔子诞辰的时候，用最多的，这个就是祭孔里面的一个乐器，所以呢，在这个 YouTube 方面，大家可以查得到，可以看得到。那现在我们就来播放一小段的，来给大家知道这个柱，这个柱就是一个木框里面在打这个木框的边。好，我们开始了。好。
Confucius.
Yeah. 好，这个算一个柱，然后现在这个台南他在祭祀这个。
Here's another celebration in the city of Tainan during a spiritual ceremony.
每年9月28号是教师节。
孔子诞辰的教师。
Again, to commemorate the teachers' festival, or in another word, Confucius. And took place in the temple of Confucius.
Hảo, 我想我们今天就到这里，大家有兴趣可以去查看 YouTube 里面呢，都可以看得到的。好，我们今天的这个时段，我们今天的讲法就到这里。一样的明天不是下一次下一次我们下礼拜四再继续跟大家分享我们的经典，佛说无量寿经。
That's it for today, and again we're going to continue next Thursday. Please look into Zhu, that wooden percussion instrument.
好，我们像我们最后要来做功德回向。
We now will return the merit.
我们把我们的今天这个佛说无量寿经大家听法的这个功德，那我们回向给所有法界众生都能够离苦得乐，然后往生者呢就去西方极乐世界，阿弥陀佛跟菩萨们会教导他们来修行成佛的。
We return merits to all the living beings. For those who've already being reborn, we wish them be reborn in the Pure Land to receive teachings by the Buddha and the multitude of Bodhisattvas.
好，请大家合掌，我们就一起用功德回向文来做回向啦。
Palms together.
愿
生西方净土中，九品莲花会父母，法开见佛无生不退菩萨。十方三世一切佛，一切菩萨摩萨摩般若波罗蜜。
Okay, very good. 我们就地礼佛三拜，3 bow to the Buddha. 顶礼老和尚。OK， 阿弥陀佛，我们全部到这里为止。明天礼拜五，施法师讲法12点半，欢迎参加。礼拜六我们一样的，我们有念佛法会，也可以大家不要忘记冷山参加我们的念佛法会。当然明天礼拜五没有念阿弥陀佛圣号，因为施法师12点半讲法。那礼拜六有，礼拜六我们有念佛12点半到1点，然后2点到3点半，我们有做法会，欢迎大家参加啦。好，阿弥陀佛，祝大家平安吉祥快乐。阿弥陀佛。